Hi everyone, Christian here, and in this video, I'm going to take a deep dive into the multiverse to discuss how the fictional civilization of Cowboy Bebop compares to the real-world place of where you watch Cowboy Bebop. Also worth mentioning, I'll be making this comparison off something called the Kardashev Scale. And for anyone not familiar with the concept, feel free to pause here, or click the tab in the right-hand corner to see one of my other videos about the topic. But yeah, that show was based in a pretty advanced future that had spaceships, a colonized solar system, and planetary governments. The real question is, how might this classic sci-fi anime parallel our own world's journey toward becoming a Type 1 civilization? After all, more often than not, science fiction is actually the precursor to real science. No better place to start than the origins of the story, which begins on what we'll call Bebop Earth. Over time, their civilization seemingly advanced faster than our own, since by the year 2022, they had a huge structure built in space called the Astral Gate. This thing was orbiting the moon, meaning they had some pretty solid space tech to get this thing going. It acted as a hyperspace bridge that could basically launch you to the other side of the solar system in a couple minutes. How it was powered, I couldn't find out, but I guess we'll let this one slip since what is physics in anime anyways? This machine was the catalyst to an event that wiped out the majority of humanity in the show. While still in the experimental stages, the Astral Gate exploded and took out a huge chunk of the moon. Natural systems on the Bebop Earth were altered forever without the gravitational pull from the moon. And to make matters worse, people were forced to live underground because moon meteors rained down every day, destroying most structures on the surface. So this is just speculation, but prior to the damage on the moon, I would estimate the Bebop humanity was already a Type 1 civilization, since the energy demands to power something like an Astral Gate likely far exceed any energy options we have in the real world. One possibility is that this gate was also a nuclear reactor, but if they were able to maintain something like that in space, I'd say that alone speaks to their progress. Unfortunately for them, one miscalculation in orbit likely brought them lower than the 0.7 our world is currently at on the Kardashev Scale. Now, when this series originally came out, the effects humans had on our planet were known, but only by a small percentage of people. Interestingly, our civilization is now contending with a similar species-ending event, the breakdown of our planet's climate. Of course, climate change and a moon exploding are very different in regards to the speed in which it happens, but both are existential, since crises like this create doubt in humanity's future. Bebop Earth's history was only briefly touched on in the series, but now that you have some context, let's jump ahead 50 years to the present day, where space bounty hunters roam and most humanity lives on other planets. After tons of research, I couldn't pin down exactly how they recovered so fast, but it was confirmed that around that time, Astral Gate technology was perfected, which is what allowed for such rapid expansion. I think the energy source used to power that transportation was the real game changer. But the Bebop humanity was likely able to advance so quickly because they gained access to enormous amounts of raw materials. Meaning that within 50 years, the Bebop humanity now had control over a powerful new energy source, the ability to travel the solar system, and obtained access to some very rare materials. It's typically believed that having control over all the energy systems on your planet is what makes you a Type 1 civilization. The Bebop humanity clearly had the technology to terraform planets and thrive within the vacuum of space. In order to do that, enormous amounts of energy generation would have been needed. This is a great indicator they were much more advanced than the real-world humanity. Despite that, corruption and the sheer distance between human settlements created an unequal distribution of technologies, which contributed to the slums and poverty often shown in the series. Kind of reminds you of our Earth, huh? So to sum it up, many parts of the Bebop civilization seemed decades ahead of our own world. But in other parts, characters clearly lived worse or on par with the present-day Earth we live on. Due to the fact that we're talking fiction here, I won't be able to provide an exact calculation of where they fell on the scale. But considering all the information we just went over, I'm going to give the Bebop humanity a 0.9 on the Kardashev scale. I came to this conclusion because the Bebop humanity clearly had access to some type of overpowered energy source, and the ability to thrive on or around many planets in the solar system. But because they were so spread out, I think that limited their ability to ever completely control a planet. So in my eyes, they were more like a fractured caravan whose general goal was to find opportunity and a new place they could call home. Of course, if the moon didn't screw up the Bebop Earth, I bet they would have had even crazier technologies and been on their way to becoming a Type 2 civilization. Now, if you made it to the end, I gotta say, you have some great taste in anime, but my guess is you also got a soft spot for some real-life science. So if I could bring it back to Earth for just 1 second, scientists are saying we're reaching the point of no return with our own climate, and there are refugees currently leaving their lands because parts of the Earth are becoming more difficult to live in. This definitely isn't good, but at the very least, you can do your part. That way we have a chance of leaving Earth on our own terms. Also, don't forget to smash the like button if you used to watch this show on Adult Swim as a kid. And let me know down in the comments section if you agree with where I put the Bebop humanity on the Kardashev scale. So that's it. I'm out, and remember, keep orbiting, and I'll see you in the next one.